Saturday afternoon. Mainz 12th. That always depends a little bit. But 12th in the Bundesliga. Modest budget, modest expectations. We're beating the current Bundesliga champions. We talked about it last time. Bayern Munich 3-0. At halftime, they were 3-0 up. The Bayern fans in the away end were doing that thing where you smile too wide and pretend that's fine, we're champions. Mainz fans were posting on Twitter X. The whole German football internet was, for about 45 minutes, briefly delighted. So Vincent Kompany did what any of us would do. He pressed the tactical pause button, opened up his bench, and brought on Harry Kane, Michael Lewis, Jonathan Tah, and Jamal Musiala, like what I do in FM26 when it's 11 o'clock and I'm 3-0 down to a relegation team and I have a meeting in the morning, right? Bring on the stars, make it stop, ruin everything for everyone. Bayern won 4-3. Of course they did. I have a lot of feelings about this match, most of them about how the Bayern bench cost more in transfer fees than Mainz's entire revenue this year, and we'll get into all of that. This week, however, we've also got Bayern in the DFB-Pokal final for the first time in forever, which is being reported as ending the drought, because apparently winning the cup 3 out of every 5 years for 2 decades and then taking a 5-year break counts as a drought now. Dortmund actually showed up this Sunday and beat Freiburg 4-0. Heidenheim refusing to die, which is great. And in the NBA playoffs on the other side, right? Nikola Jokic started a brawl with Jade McDaniels over an unwritten rule. Interesting. The Knicks are 2-2 with the Hawks because they got cursed by a professional wrestler on national TV. Also great. Because I've never thought I would say this sentence ever in my life. And the Pistons team basketball revolution is being dismantled by Orlando, who, plot twisty, are also playing team basketball and apparently maybe even slightly better. Plus, Wednesday night, Bayern at PSG, Champions League semi-final first leg. The week where, for once, every German who hates Bayern temporarily roots for them because at least, you know, it's a German team and we'll talk about that hypocrisy later too, but that's just how it is. I'm Sasha, 20 years coaching team sport. This is Taktik, the show where we watch sport the way a coach watches it. And let's go! As always, we start with a quick recap, right? Match day 31 in the Bundesliga. I hope I counted right. Plus midweek DFB-Pokal, German Cup semifinals. Lots happened. Let me hit the parts that mattered. Here we go. Mainz 3, Bayern 4. So here's how this happened. Mainz at home took the absolute mickey out of Bayern in the first half. 3 goals, all of them legit goals, none of them flukes. Bayern were playing like a team that just won the league and was already mentally on the plane to Paris, to be honest, right? So fair. Halftime, Kompany's like, yo, no, we're not doing this. Makes changes, brings on Kane in the 46, Olis, Musiala, Tah. And, well, what shall we do? The Bayern bench on Saturday, valued by Transfermarkt, was something like 250 million euros worth of like footballers, right? Mainz's entire squad is worth maybe 130. So Kompany essentially pulled out a credit card with no limit and went, fine, you want to play, let's play. Final 4-3 for Bayern. Of course, Olis scored. Of course, Kane scored. It's just ridiculous. Bayern scored 4 goals in 45 minutes against a team that had spent the first 45 minutes scoring 3 goals against them. That's not a football match. That's a transition video, to be honest. And I want to be clear about something. This is not Bayern doing anything wrong. Of course not. They have the squad they have. Kompany made the right substitutions. Mainz played their hearts out and lost because of the structural reality of European football. If you have 250 million euros on the bench, you don't lose 3-0 to a 12th place team. And we're gonna come back to this in a moment. We also have to talk about the German Cup, the DFB-Pokal semi-finals though. Bayern beat Leverkusen 2-0 at the Bayer Arena. Kane scored, of course he did. Diaz iced it deep in stoppage time. Bayern are now in the DFB-Pokal, German Cup final for the first time in 6 years. 6 years. 6 years. Every Bayern outlet is calling it like ending the drought. German football has now been so thoroughly Bayern shaped that not winning the cup, I know 3 years out of 5 years counts as a drought or whatever. It's past parody. Bayern in the cup final is news the way the sun rising is news, except the sun is always in a treble, sure, but you know what I'm saying. In the other semi, Stuttgart beat Freiburg 2-1. Thiago Tomas scored, and I think it was like almost close to the end. Stuttgart are the second finalists. So the DFB-Pokal final, I think it's May 23rd in Berlin, is Bayern with Stuttgart, which, side note, is the same Stuttgart Bayern beat 4-2 last week, and the same Stuttgart Bayern have now played 4 times this season. At some point, you're not playing different teams, you're just playing the same team in different cities, right? If Bayern, if they win the cup and make the Champions League final, are chasing a treble. They're first since 2020. So, well, at least that's still something to watch for, I think. We also had Dortmund 4, Freiburg 0 on Sunday night. Dortmund actually showed up on Sunday 4-0 at home against, well, Freiburg. Lots of scoring. They looked briefly like a team that, remember, they were supposed to be challenging for the title, by the way, before they decided in, what was it, February, that second place would be enough. It's a nice 4-0. It does nothing about the fact that they're 15 points or whatever, with 1,000 points by now, felt 1,000 points off Bayern with 3 games left. But credit where it's due. Nothing to win for Dortmund, or not much, and Freiburg is a decent side, so Dortmund dismantled them. So you take it, you fight it under form heading into next season. Nice, good job. Heidenheim 2, St. Pauli 0. We call this the Undertaker, the resurrection. Heidenheim were dead 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. I think I mentioned them in the recap last week as approaching relegation with momentum or something. Apparently Heidenheim heard me and was like, oh, well, we're taking this personally, insert the MJ meme here, and they beat St. Pauli 2-0. They're still 18th. I think 22 points by now. I don't have it at the top of my head, but they're alive in a way they weren't like 2 weeks ago. Don't bet on them, but hey, don't write them off either. And they could still get like on that relegation spot. That means like you have to play the relegation playoffs. We had Leipzig 3, Union Berlin 1, Marie-Louise Eter's second match. Friday night, Eter's first away match. Union lost 1-3 to the third place team in the league on the road with a squad that's been in relegation form since October, right? So headline this morning, Eta still winners. Sure. The reality of football is Union are going to lose this match no matter who would have coached them, because Leipzig is just that good, and we talked about that last week as well, and we'll come back to this in a second very briefly too. We had the Rhine Derby, Cologne, Köln versus Leverkusen. Leverkusen, who got dropped by a soft penalty against Augsburg last week, if you remember that, beat Köln 2-1 in Cologne, 3 points, back on track. Not pretty. Köln with the better chances. Hello, Seid Almada. But Leverkusen with more possession. So, I guess that's what a top team has to do, right? Besides that, some quick sweeps that we had. We had Augsburg, Frankfurt 1-1, Wolfsburg, Gladbach tied on 0-0. Riveting television, great. It was fantastic to watch that conference. Or I think the games. HSV 1, Hoffenheim 2. HSV continue to discover that being in the Bundesliga is actually quite hard. They did so well in the beginning, and now they're back in the relegation battle. Stuttgart Bremen 1-1. Stuttgart's Champions League hopes on life support, I guess. Technically alive. Bremen can breathe a bit easier now in relegation battle, though. That's the league. But now let's jump into the bigger stories, okay? Because that was the recap. Now we talk about, well, Mainz Bayern game, but not the way the highlight will show it. Because the highlight show angles, hey, yo, what a comeback, what a masterstroke by Vincent Kompany. Isn't football wonderful? And I mean, yeah, sure it is. Football is wonderful, that's why we're on this podcast, but there's more to it. There's a different question to ask from my point of view. And that's what I'm gonna try right now. The bench problem. Let's look at the bench. At halftime of the Mainz match, Bayern brought on Harry Kane, 100 million euros transfer fee, right? Wages somewhere, I don't know. He built a palace or something in England. So he did, Michael Olise, pretty cheap transfer with only 60 million euro from Crystal Palace or something like that. Jamal Musiala, generational German wonder kid, right? Probably worth over 120 million by now. Easy, if let's be honest, if Flo Wirtz was 150. Easy. Jonathan Tah, yeah, German international defender, came last summer. By now, probably also way more than the 30 million. Yeah, transfer wages on the bench, conservatively, somewhere around 250 million. Total annual wages probably around, I don't know, 60. I have just spitballing right now. But Mainz's entire annual revenue, the whole club budget for everything is somewhere between 100 and 120 million. The Bayern bench in that game cost more than Mainz's club exists for in a year. And that's Bundesliga 2026, but it's also football in 2026. The company didn't do anything wrong, and that's the problem. And it's not a story about Bayern overspending or being arrogant. That would be too easy. They have the squad they have, and Kompany used his bench. That's what he's supposed to do. The substitutions were exactly right. They were perfect. You know, fresh attacking talent against a tiring 12th place team. From a coaching perspective, it's textbook management. He saw the game state, recognized the scoreboard, brought on the players who could change it. As a coach, nothing to criticize about how Kompany handled that match. The problem isn't Kompany or the coaching. The problem isn't even Bayern. The problem is the league and football as a whole. Now I'm going to say something and then you're going to hate me for it. So let me make the point. So don't jump to conclusions, okay? Let's take the Premier League, for example. The broadcast revenue there is distributed relatively evenly. The team that finishes first earns about 1.5 times what the team that finishes last earns from the league's TV, right? That's why Brentford can field somewhat competitive sides. I said, please let me finish. That's why Brighton can spend 40 million on a player. That's why the Premier League's bottom half teams sometimes beat top half teams without being a fairy tale. In the Bundesliga, Bayern earns somewhere between 2 and 3 times what mid-table clubs earn. When you factor in commercial revenue, Champions League money, sponsorships, hard work, everything, plus their member structure means they've got more financial flexibility than the 50+1 rule was about to allow. And it was about to make things more even. Plus, I mean, they win the league every year, which means they get more Champions League money every year, which means they can spend more every year, which means they win the league every year. Yeah, it's a flywheel, right? It's been spinning for 15 years or whatever, and it's spinning faster now than ever. The Bundesliga title is the structural outcome, not a sporting one. And by no means am I saying that the Premier League structure is better. I'm saying it's nice that the TV money is being more fairly, and it's a hard word to choose in football, I know, distributed. I'm obviously aware of the influence of like investors and all those things, which I also agree with are not good for football as a whole, just to make that very clear. And I want to be also careful about what I say, right? So I'm not saying Bayern shouldn't be allowed to win. They earned every title. Kompany built the best team in Germany, maybe even in the world. Olise, Musiala, Kane, they're all world class and they play for Bayern because Bayern can pay them and other German clubs can't. And that's not corruption or anything, that's just how money works. But what I'm saying is when the bench at one Bundesliga club costs more than the entire annual revenue of the club they're playing, the league is kind of broken in a way that no coaching adjustment fixes. Leipzig, who we discussed like last episode, are running probably the second best operation in Germany. Can catch Bayern. Leverkusen had a once in a generation Alonso year and it lasted 12 months. Dortmund have just decided to finish second forever, and well, that's fine, I guess. And occasionally winning 4-0 against Freiburg to keep up appearances. Nice, good job. In a healthy league, an upset is a story. In the Bundesliga, an upset is Mainz almost beating Bayern's third string lineup before the actual lineup came on at halftime. That's not interesting football. That's what we don't want. That's almost oligarchy with set pieces. And that's what we didn't want in the Bundesliga, right? Uh-huh. So the question is, what can be done? In the short term, well, nothing. The 50+1 rule, which is supposed to protect German football from this exact dynamic, is being systematically eroded by clubs who found creative workarounds. Leipzig, Hoffenheim, Wolfsburg, Leverkusen, you name it. Bayern doesn't even need a workaround because they were the dominant club before the workarounds existed. In the long term, someone needs to look at how Bundesliga revenue is distributed and ask whether the current model is producing competitive football or just producing Bayern. Because right now the answer is increasingly the second one. In the meantime, enjoy Bayern's bench if they play like that, right? It's the most expensive bench in German football. Again, if they play like that, it's saved Kompany's afternoon on Saturday. It'll probably save him on Wednesday in Paris too. And the rest of us will keep watching, mostly out of habit, increasingly out of, I know, curiosity and to see what they'll do next. Never out of any actual suspense about what's gonna happen. Because that's the cost of an oligarchy, right? Not the money, the boredom. Speaking of headlines that don't match reality, by the way, quick check-in on Marie-Louise Eta, who's currently being judged on a different sport than the one she's actually coaching. 2 weeks ago, Union Berlin appointed Marie-Louise Eta as their first ever female head coach. First female head coach in any of Europe's top 5 leagues. She inherited a team that's been in freefall since October. First match, lost 1-2 at home to 17th place Wolfsburg. Second match Friday, lost 1-3 away to Leipzig, third in the league in form on their homepage. Reading the German football press this morning, you'd think she'd done something wrong. Like, Eta still winless, Union slump continues, pressure mounts on first female coach. What's happening? Yeah, if you read the actual match, it's an injury-depleted 14th place team lost away to the third best team in the country. I said this last week. I'm saying it again because it appears I need to repeat it. Every interim coach in Europe loses games. Every coach taking over a struggling team loses games. The data on interim manager appointments, actual data across decades, across leagues, is that they win about 30% of their early matches. That's the baseline. So Eta is statistically doing what every interim coach does. But she's not getting interim coach treatment. She's getting first woman ever treatment, which means every loss is a referendum on whether women can coach men, and every win, when one comes, will be reported as if it were proof of concept rather than normal football results. And so the failure mode I'm worried about, Union goes down, the media frames it as Eta couldn't save them, and the next female coach hire in any top 5 league gets pushed back 5 years. We're now 2 matches in and the ground is being prepared for that exact narrative. So second week running, I keep saying this as long as it's relevant, the Union Berlin squad started its slump in October, 6 months before Eta arrived. If they go down, that's a structural failure. It's not a referendum on female coaches, and anybody who tells you otherwise is selling you something, probably their newspaper or their Doppelpass viewership. 3 matches left in this season. Let's see what the football actually does before we let the storyline write itself. Alright, so now quick, smooth transition from German football to American basketball. What? Because this week we had a brawl, a curse, and a regular season narrative I was a big fan of it quietly dying in Detroit. So, deep in the first round, most series are at game 4 by now. Few things to talk about. Number 1, Nikola Jokic throwing hands. He finally found someone, and please, I hope he doesn't hear it, but he finally found someone he runs fast for. Because Saturday night, Wolves, Nuggets, game 4, Minnesota up by 700 points, game effectively over. Jaden McDaniels, dead Jaden McDaniels, gets the ball, leaks out on a fast break, scores a layup, didn't even windmill slam it or anything, with 1.3 seconds left. Final score, 112-96. Wolves take a 3-1 series lead. Should be over here, but in basketball, there's this unwritten rule. When the game is over and the result is settled, you dribble out the clock. You don't add insult to injury. McDaniels did the layup anyway, probably to make a point, probably because, well, he could. Nikola Jokic, 3-time MVP, generally regarded as the most chill superstar in the league, unless it's horse racing. The guy who'd rather be there at his horse stable in Serbia than at most NBA events. He lost his mind. Sprinted. You never see Nikola Jokic sprint. In no game ever did he sprint. He sprinted at McDaniels, shoved him in the chest, triggered a full bench clearing scrum. Julius Randle from the Wolves got involved, made it worse. Jokic and Randle both ejected. And the NBA fined Jokic 50K for instigating, Randle 35 for forcefully inserting himself into the scrum, which is just a wonderful sentence to say. Internet's reaction, of course, was perfect. Multiple variations of the joke. Jokic ran faster to fight than he does on defense. If he ran on defense like that, the Nuggets wouldn't be down 3-1, and so on. McDaniels, by the way, was photographed laughing at Jokic during the confrontation. The aura loss seems real in this series. Now, coach's eye observation, okay? There are unwritten rules in every team sport. They're called unwritten because they're not in the rulebook. But every player and every coach in every league knows exactly what they are. When you're up by 16 with 2 seconds left, you dribble out. When you're up 4-0 in a soccer game, and I say soccer because I'm talking basketball right now, you know I mean the real football. When you're up 4-0 in stoppage time, you don't try to score the fifth. When you're up by 15 points in volleyball, you don't run another trick play. The unwritten rule isn't about the score, it's about respect for the people losing. And McDaniels broke that rule. Was it intentional? Probably. The Wolves and Nuggets have played each other in the playoffs 3 times in 4 years now. There's history. So he wanted to lay up more than he wanted etiquette. Jokic responded as a generation competitor should respond. Yeah, I'm saying it just like Charles Barkley here. His team's pride had just been dunked on or layupped on. The shove was the problem. The anger wasn't. As a coach, I'd be more worried if my player didn't react, especially if it's my star player. The reaction is data, tells you the player still cares with the season like slipping away. But Denver's going home, down 3-1. The MVP just got fined. Edwards may be hurt. Who knows? DiVincenzo probably out. And the Wolves are walking through this series so far. The way what Jokic was trying to communicate Saturday night, the message that's actually being received is Minnesota is the better team and they know it. Point number 2. The Knicks were cursed by a professional wrestler, and so now they're losing Hausen. This actually happened. I cannot believe I have to explain this on my Coach's Eye podcast, but here we are. Okay, let's go. You ready? I'm excited about this. About a week ago or so, Stephen A. Smith, ESPN talking head, huge New York Knicks fan, was on First Take, of course, his morning show, talking about the Knicks. The wrestler, Danhausen, was a guest because WrestleMania week, right? So TKO, WrestleMania, WWE, WrestleMania week. So Danhausen, for some reason, Danhausen was the one chosen to be on First Take. So Danhausen was a guest. Danhausen's whole gimmick is putting curses on people. He's like the laughing, the fun release, the humorous release WWE. And he cursed Stephen A. Smith on live television because Stephen A. was not nice to Danhausen. So Danhausen told him, Stephen A., you are cursed. So Stephen A. got cursed. He then, jokingly, Danhausen extended the curse to the Knicks. Since then, the Knicks lost game 2 at home to the Hawks. They lost game 3 in Atlanta. So they were 0-2 in the curse. Now, they won game 4, so okay, maybe they're fighting the curse a little bit. Good job. But it was fantastic. The Danhausen curse actually worked on Stephen A. Smith and his Knicks. For just a second, we were discussing maybe professional wrestling is still more real to us, damn it. But game 4, the Knicks beat the Hawks. So either the curse has been lifted or more likely, because basketball is not actually booked like WWE, the Knicks are just always going to win that game. But hey, that was fun. And I'll try to add a quick Coach's Eye observation to this too. That's what happens when a regular season tells you a team is good and the playoffs introduce randomness, right? The Knicks were the 3 seed, the Hawks 6 seed. The math would say Knicks win in 5 or 6. Early swings close losses, wild momentum changes, a wrestling curse. That's the stuff that makes the playoffs interesting. And yeah, sometimes those signals they eventually win. I'm not saying the curse wins, but like momentum shifts, right? So sometimes it takes longer than you like for things to play out the way they are supposed to, but it looks like the Knicks pulled it out of the oven, at least now in game four. Let's see how the Hawks will respond. But shout out to Danhausen for the most successful piece of professional wrestling cross promotion this decade. He might have lost the curse now, but he definitely won the cultural moment. And now the last part for on the NBA part, the one that hurts me the most, is that the Pistons Magic series is killing the team basketball narrative that I was putting out, and that's why it hurts me personally. Because last week I mentioned that the Pistons, um, that I really like the story of the year, of the season. Number one seed in the East, played beautiful team basketball all season. The narrative was you don't have a superstar, and their star was down for a long time. So you just have lots of guys who step up and pass the ball. And now they hit the playoffs, and they're currently down 2-1 to the 8th seed Orlando Magic. Um, getting tough. It's getting tough. So the observation here from a coach's eye POV, right? And it's what I've been building on this podcast for weeks now. Regular season tests the systems, but players do test individual ceilings. And when it comes together, then you see, do you have a real high quality team? And the Pistons team basketball worked over 82 games because no individual opponent was healthy enough or motivated enough to specifically target them. In a 7-game series, all your opponent has to do is figure out who's your best player and make him uncomfortable for 6 games. That's it, then the system breaks. But wait. Before you hate it, I'm exaggerating on purpose because there's a twist to it. The Magic are playing team basketball too. Sure, they have Paulo Banchero, that's the star, of course. Wagner boys. So Wagner boys, Shaq, it's pronounced Wagner, okay? Moritz Wagner, Franz Wagner, okay? And they're playing team basketball too. And their offense flows, they share the ball, they defend as a unit. They're the 8th seed, but they're not a one superstar team. They're a system team beating a system team, which is very interesting to see. It kind of complicates that you need a superstar narrative going both directions, right? The Pistons might lose in 7, not because they don't have a superstar, but because they ran into another well-coached team that plays team basketball with one star slightly better than maybe their best player. It's Banchero versus Cunningham, and Cunningham having been injured for a long time. So 2 team basketball teams. The seeding of your best individual question is determining the series, I guess. But it's not putting from team basketball is dead. It's putting from your best guy still matters slightly more than mine. But we're still playing team basketball. Which as a coach, that's what I've believed my entire career, of course. It's why it's genuinely interesting to watch basketball right now. Again, I lost interest for a while, but right now, especially the Pistons and the Magic are fun to watch. Both teams are playing the version of the sport I want them to play. One of them just has a slightly better individual at the top. That's okay. The system works. The seeding matters. Yeah, both things are true. Most pundits will pick one and miss the other. So as I'm recording, game 4 was about to tip. By the time you're listening to this episode, it'll be over. If Detroit wins, it's 2-2. If they lose, they're in real trouble. Either way, this series is the most interesting tactical story of the first round from my point of view. Oh, and of course, LBJ doing his thing as 7,000 years old, and Luca had to come back from Spain already. But that's maybe more on that in the next episode because, well, they're up 3-0, so that's all okay. So let's wrap this thing, right? So quick wrap at the end. Bayern's bench cost more than Mainz's annual budget during the last game, I know. Bayern's in the cup final because what a great underdog story it is after a 6-year drought. Heidenheim's not dead. Eta's not winning yet. Jokic finally found something he runs fast for. The Knicks have kind of uncursed themselves, possibly, maybe. We can only count them on screwing things up, so let's see. The Pistons might lose to the Magic, which is a mid-table team basketball squad with a slightly better star, maybe. Meaning the entire regular season narrative gets nuanced one way or the other this week. We live in extremely entertaining times, I believe. Quick look ahead, Wednesday, Bayern at PSG, Champions League semi-final first leg, biggest match of the European season so far. And quick honest moment, this is the one week of the year where every German, including me, who hates Bayern, temporarily roots for them, including, like I said, including me, including probably you if you're German. Because as much as we complain about Bayern domestically, when they're representing the Bundesliga in Europe, the math changes, especially when they're taking on a club from France. PSG winning means a French club going to the final. Bayern winning means a German club going to the final. I know. The hypocrisy is loud, but it's universal. You know it. You'll hear it in Sport Show Wrap Up. That's the German sports TV show on channel 1 or 2. You hear it in conversations across Germany Wednesday night. We hate them 11 months a year and root for them in May. So Wednesday, Bayern at PSG. I'll be watching. By next Monday's episode, we'll know whether Kompany's culture first project survives a team that actually has an attack. Let's see. Should be huge. If this was worth your time, subscribe wherever you're listening. If it wasn't, also subscribe. The number helps either way. I'm taking dirty wins right now, just like Wolfsburg or Heidenheim down there. If anything in this episode was unfair, let me know. I take it as data and hope that I can improve on that. Tactic out, back next Monday. Thanks for listening.